What's going on, everybody? This video you're watching, if you're watching, thank you for watching very much. I really appreciate it if you're watching. And if you subscribe to my YouTube channel, thank you. I'm going to start this video, The Year in Wrestling 1997 Part 4, talking about this event right here. ECW WrestlePalooza 97. So back. WrestlePalooza 97 event from, I believe it was in July, maybe June, but I think it was in July of 97, maybe early August. I'm not really sure. I think it was July, because Raven, this was his last ECW match, an event, and Raven showed up in WCW at Bash at the Beach, their pay-per-view event. So maybe WrestlePalooza was even in June, but I think it was July. Anyways, matches that were on WrestlePalooza 97 were the FBI taking on the Pitbulls. FBI was a team of Little Guido and Tracy Smothers. Tracy Smothers worked in WCW in 91 and 1990. Then he went to WWF in 96, I think, as Freddie Joe Floyd. And he was even in Smoky Mountain Wrestling in the early 90s. And Tracy Smothers went to ECW in 97 and became a part of the team of the FBI, full-blooded Italians, with Little Guido. And J.T. Smith was even part of the FBI. And then later on in 97, Wildfire Tommy Rich would come into ECW and join the FBI. So the FBI taking on the Pitbulls. I'm not sure who won. I don't have the results in front of me. I apologize for that. But you can look them up anywhere online if you have internet access. Up next was Shane Douglas, the reigning television champion of ECW, taking on the cousin of Taz, Chris Chetti. I'm pretty sure that Shane Douglas won. Again, if I'm wrong on who won, just look up the results online of WrestlePalooza 97. Up next was ECW World Championship on the line. Terry Funk defending the ECW title against Chris Candido. I'm pretty damn sure Terry Funk retained and won, because he'd go into the next pay-per-view, Hardcore Heaven 97, as champion. Or no, he wouldn't. Sabu would, because Sabu won a barbed wire match against Terry Funk for the ECW title in the ECW arena at Born to Be Wired. I believe that event was in August of 97. Barbed wire match. Sabu wins the ECW World title from Terry Funk. It was violent. It was brutal. It was extreme, if you will. And Sabu became world champion, went into Hardcore Heaven 97 as champion. But at WrestlePalooza 97, Terry Funk was champion. Up next was their final matchup, the final encounter. Raven, his last match in ECW at the time, but he would return in 99. I believe if Raven lost this match, he would have to leave ECW. Or maybe if Tommy lost, Tommy Dreamer was going to have to leave ECW. I'm not sure. But I think it was a loser leaves town match, or something like that. Loser must leave ECW. Anyways, Tommy Dreamer, after 2 years of not defeating Raven, 2.5 years of not beating Raven once, Tommy Dreamer finally defeats his rival Raven in the ECW arena A lot of people got involved, a lot of interference. Louis Spicolli got involved. Beulah McGillicuddy got involved. Ravens Flock got involved. And then at the end you had craziness. Rob Van Dam, Sabu, Jerry Lawler. I think the lights went out in the ECW arena. Jerry Lawler was in the ring on the microphone ripping the ECW fans and the product. He always called it extremely crappy wrestling. And Jerry Lawler was just, he was a creative guy when he ran his own promotion with Jerry Jarrett. He came up with some good gimmicks. One of them is Kamala. But other than that, Jerry Lawler is not anywhere near as smart or as creative as Paul Heyman was. So Jerry Lawler, I did not enjoy when he would rip ECW on WWF television and call it extremely crappy wrestling. Yes, it was extreme and it was hardcore and it was violence. Sometimes violence just for the sake of violence and just bashing chairs again on people's heads really for no reason. And then kicking out. Just craziness. Weapons almost in every match. But that wasn't all ECW was. ECW was not just all violent crap. It wasn't. It also had a lot of great wrestling and great matches between Rob Van Dam and Lance Storm. Great matches between Taz and Shane Douglas and Taz and Bam Bam Bigelow and Taz and RVD and Rob Van Dam versus Jerry Lynn. Before that, you had Eddie Guerrero versus Dean Malenko. They had great matches without getting extreme and without using weapons and without blood and guts. In 99 and 2000, ECW would still put on great wrestling matches that were great matches. And you also still had the blood and guts and the violent stuff in ECW. But big deal. I didn't like Jerry Lawler ripping ECW, and I thought he was always an idiot for doing so. So Jerry Lawler would come out, get on the microphone and call the ECW arena, say this arena should be full of toilet paper because there's nothing in it but shit, or the ECW arena is full of shit, something like that. And then the lights would go out again, and Jim Cornette from the WWF invaded with Jerry Lawler in the WWF invasion on ECW. And Jim Cornette beat the hell out of Tommy Dreamer with the tennis racket. And you had Team WWF beat the crap out of the Sandman and Tommy Dreamer. Rob Van Dam hit a Van Daminator, I believe, on the Sandman. They just beat the crap out of both of them. And then Taz comes out and saves the day. And Team WWF leaves the ring and runs away. Taz, in the ring, gets his hands on a Raw is War shirt somehow, puts it on a chair, and sets a Raw is War shirt on fire. It burns in the ring. So that was a pretty cool invasion between Jerry Lawler and Jim Cornette showing up in the ECW arena. I enjoyed the mini invasion that the WWF did against ECW in 97 in the summer. And it started at WrestlePalooza 97. Other matches on the show. After Tommy Dreamer finally defeats Raven, you had Taz take on Sabu in a rematch from their pay-per-view match at Barely Legal. And they had a damn good match. Taz chokes out Sabu, and I believe, what the hell was the finish? I can't remember. I think Sabu won I can't remember. Look it up online if you want to know. After Sabu and Taz is over, Taz, or Shane Douglas, is sitting up on the stage watching the matches from the ECW arena. Gets on the microphone, tells Taz to get the fuck out of the ring and let the other matches start. And then he's saying, "You did your job, now get the fuck out." Well, Taz did not enjoy that. He calls out Shane Douglas and says, If you beat me, I'll leave ECW for 60 days without pay. If you can beat me." And then Shane Douglas says he'll beat him in 5 minutes. And then Taz says he'll do him one better, and he'll make Shane Douglas tap out in 3 minutes. And if he doesn't, he'll leave ECW for 60 days. So Shane Douglas puts the ECW TV title on the line, accepts the challenge, and comes down to the ring to take on Taz. Taz does what he said he was going to do. He chokes out Shane Douglas and hooks him in his submission, and Shane Douglas taps out. Taz becomes a new ECW World Television Champion. The crowd exploded. They loved it. And Shane taps under 3 minutes. So, pretty damn entertaining match that was. Other matches were... the final match, I believe, was... Or on the DVD, I think it was the final match. The Dudleys against the Eliminators. Perry Saturn had a torn ACL in his knee. He had his knee in a giant cast. But he still wrestled and took on the Dudley Boys. Perry Saturn, tough as nails, tough as hell. So that was ECW WrestlePalooza. And after WrestlePalooza, there would be Born to be Wired from ECW. As I said, Terry Funk and Sabu had an epic barbed wire match for the ECW World title. Sabu defeats Terry Funk to become the ECW World Champion, going into Hardcore Heaven 97 pay-per-view event. Now I'm going to talk about WWF SummerSlam 1997. How'd that piece of paper go I had? I don't know where the hell it went. Anyways, SummerSlam 97 took place from East Rutherford, New Jersey on August 3rd, 97. First match was Mankind defeating Hunter Hearst Helmsley in a steel cage match. This was a pretty good cage match. Before the end, Chyna slams at hard-ass steel blue bars that had no give. She slams the door on Mankind's head that had to hurt like hell. And that cage had absolutely no give. I'm glad they got rid of it. Up next, Goldust defeated Brian Pillman. They started a mini feud, and Brian Pillman started trying to kidnap Marlena, and he eventually would. And then they had another match at Ground Zero in September where Brian Pillman would defeat Goldust and take control of Marlena for 30 days to do whatever he wanted with her. And then, sadly, after Ground Zero, before the day of the next pay-per-view in October, Bad Blood in Your House, on the same day of Bad Blood, we found out Brian Pillman was found dead in his hotel room. Very sad, very tragic. And it just sucks that Brian Pillman is still not alive. Up next at SummerSlam, the Legion of Doom defeated the Godwins. European Championship on the line. The British Bulldog Davey Boy Smith defeated Ken Shamrock by disqualification. Ken Shamrock would snap in this match. British Bulldog put opened a can of dog food and put it in Ken Shamrock's face and rubbed it in his face. Shamrock snapped. He went nuts, attacked the British Bulldog, and all these referees got in the ring and officials. And then Ken Shamrock picked up Pat Patterson, belly-to-belly, suplexed him, slammed him on his back. Picked up a ref, slammed him on his back. So Ken Shamrock snapped. Up next was Los Boricuas defeating the DOA in an 8-man tag team match. After that was Stone Cold Steve Austin defeating Owen Hart to become the new Intercontinental Champion. This was really sad and really tragic how this match ended. You had Owen Hart drop Stone Cold Steve Austin on his head in the middle of the ring. He did a tombstone power driver, but he sat down. He sat down on his ass instead of going to his knees for some reason. So Owen Hart dropped Stone Cold right on top of his head. And as we all know, it really fucked up Stone Cold's neck. Basically broke his neck. And really damaged his spinal cord probably a lot. And Stone Cold was laying in the ring for a while and could not even move. Could not feel his legs or his fingers or his feet. So he was partially paralyzed for a little bit, and gladly he started being able to move his arms and fingers and legs again. And then he was really injured. I'm sure his neck was killing him. He schoolboyed Owen Hart up in a really weak-looking schoolboy because Stone Cold just did not have the strength to do a real roll-up. So Owen Hart basically just fell back, and Stone Cold then put his arm over Owen. And 1, 2, 3, the match was over. A really bad finish, but it could not be helped because Stone Cold got dropped on his head. But he does become the new Intercontinental Champion. It was just sad how he became the Intercontinental Champion. Because if Stone Cold would have been healthy, him and Owen would have had a great match at SummerSlam if he never got injured. I don't know what Owen Hart was thinking. I'm sure it was an accident. I'm sure he felt really bad about it, and he did apologize backstage to Stone Cold. I just don't know what he was thinking, falling to his ass instead of falling to his knees like Undertaker does it. So that power driver, that could have really paralyzed Stone Cold Steve Austin for life. That could have put him in a wheelchair for life. Luckily, it did not. And I'm glad it did not. Stone Cold could have been paralyzed at SummerSlam 97, just like in 99. In, I think, October 99, on a SmackDown taping, D'Lo Brown did a running powerbomb and dropped draws on his neck and on his head. And I'm sure that was an accident, but it was a really bad accident and should have never happened. And Draws, sadly, got paralyzed, and he's still in a wheelchair because of the accident and the running powerbomb that D'Lo Brown did and messed it up. So that could have what happened to Draws being in a wheelchair now, that could have been Stone Cold, but gladly it was not. And it's really sad that Draws got paralyzed. But I guess you take that risk. Every time you step in the ring, you do take that risk of getting really injured, and you could become paralyzed. So in a sport where you can become paralyzed and dropped on your head, I don't think anything is fake about that. All the stupid non-wrestling fans that just like to piss off wrestling fans and call it and tell you to your face that why would you watch something that is fake? Well, why don't you step your ass in the ring and then tell me if it's fake? Because I've been in a ring and nothing is fake about those bumps and your body hurts after it. Up next at SummerSlam was the main event. The Undertaker defending the WWF Championship against Bret the Hitman Hart. Shawn Michaels was a special guest referee for this, and Bret Hart was spit in his face. Shawn Michaels had a chair in his hand, swung the chair, Bret Hart ducked, it drilled The Undertaker, Bret Hart pins Undertaker, and then 1, 2, Shawn Michaels did not want to count 3, he was staring at Bret Hart, but he did. Put his arm down, counted the 3 count. Bret Hart becomes the new WWF champion for the 5th time. So Bret Hart becomes a 5-time WWF champion. And that was a great end to SummerSlam. And SummerSlam 97 was a pretty good show. You had Stone Cold, or Undertaker Bret Hart was good, and the cage match was good. The other matches were not very good or entertaining, but they were okay. But SummerSlam was still a good pay-per-view, I thought. Up next, I'm going to talk about WCW Hog Wild 90, or Road. They changed the name. It was called Road Wild. Took place on August 9th, 97, a week after SummerSlam took place on pay-per-view. Again, Road Wild was from Sturgis, South Dakota, home of the Bikers Rally, where you had the stupid bikers that probably got in for free to watch the pay-per-view, just revving their engines and yelling, and they were probably drunk off their ass, being idiots. It was a non-wrestling crowd, and the crowd was just awful for Road Wild. Every time they went there and did that outdoor show in Sturgis, it never worked, and the crowd was never into it. They were a bunch of drunk fucks. Road Wild, first match, Harlem Heat defeated Marcus Alexander Bagwell and Scott Norton after Jacqueline interfered. Later on in 98, Jacqueline, a year later, would end up in the WWF feuding with Sable, and she'd become the first women's champion when they brought the women's title back in 98. She won the title, and then Sable defeated her at Survivor Series 98 to win the women's title. Up next, Conan defeated Rey Mysterio Jr. by submission in a Mexican death match. I don't remember it much, but I'm sure it was decent. Up next, Chris Benoit and Steve McMichael defeated the team of Jeff Jarrett and Dean Malenko. Again, Steve McMichael and Jeff Jarrett on opposite sides of a team. I was sick as hell of seeing them feud. And I hope this was their last pay-per-view where they were against each other. As I said, Chris Benoit, Steve McMichael win. Up next, in a tag team elimination match between Steve McMichael and Jeff Jarrett and Benoit and Malenko. Up next, Cruiserweight Champion Alex Wright defeated Chris Jericho. I don't ever remember Alex Wright winning the Cruiserweight title, but I'm sure he did. And I don't think he had a very long run with it. Ric Flair defeated Syxx when with his feet on the ropes. Kurt Hennig defeated Diamond Dallas Page. And I'm pretty sure Kurt Hennig was not the NWO yet, but in the next pay-per-view he would join the NWO. The Giant defeated Randy Macho Man Savage. The Steiner brothers defeated the World Tag Team Champions Scott Hall and Kevin Nash by disqualification. And the main event was Hulk Hogan defeating Lex Luger to win back the WCW World title. A week earlier, before the pay-per-view Road Wild, Lex Luger would win the world title on Nitro from Hulk Hogan. And a week later, 6 days later, Hulk Hogan would defeat Lex Luger. Very pointless title run to give Lex Luger the world title for 6 days. But I'm sure Hogan had creative control, and it was his decision, and they just gave Lex Luger the world title win on Nitro, I guess, to shock people and make Nitro exciting. So that was Road Wild. 97, it was not very good, but it was not a bad pay-per-view. It was just okay. Now I'm going to talk about, I don't know, where the hell. I'm going to talk about ECW Hardcore Heaven, and I wish I knew where this goddamn piece of paper went that I had with me. I don't know where the F, here it is. It was under my chair. I'm going to talk about Hardcore Heaven 97 from ECW now. That took place in August of 97. August 17th, 97. So in August 97, just like in April, we had 3 pay-per-view events in 1 month from 3 different companies. That was pretty fucking awesome. But I don't know who on earth could afford to order all 3. I sure didn't. It was Hardcore Heaven from Fort Lauderdale, Florida on August 17th, 97. In the arena, my only problem with this pay-per-view is the arena in the ring was not lit well at all. It was really dark in the crowd. You couldn't even see the crowd, barely. And the lighting for Hardcore Heaven 97 pay-per-view was not good. That's my only complaint. But the matches were pretty good and entertaining. First match was television champion Taz absolutely destroying Chris Candido. And he defeats him by submission when he chokes him out. Bam Bam Bigelow defeats Spike Dudley, and Bam Bam absolutely destroyed Spike Dudley and owned him in this match. Spike Dudley was 5'5", like 155 pounds, and Bam Bam obviously was well over 300 and just picked up Spike by his arm, hip toss, threw his ass in the air, and Spike lands on his back, and Bam Bam is throwing him on the outside against the steel guardrails, just absolutely destroying and beating the fuck out of Spike Dudley. Spike Dudley, for a little guy, damn, he could take a lot of punishment. And he wasn't even getting paid very much at all. On the ECW DVD, Spike Dudley claimed he would make $75 a match, or on a pay-per-view or event he was on. So he wasn't getting paid much money, but he was still wrestling, and I'm sure he was just doing it for the love of wrestling. So Bam Bam defeats Spike Dudley, and I think he even press slammed him in the ring and threw his ass into the crowd, over the steel guardrail, into the third row. That was a fucking insane spot to do, but Spike Dudley agreed to do it. He was insane to agree to that. But it was fun to watch. Bam Bam tossed Spike Dudley in the crowd, because you were not going to see action like that in WCW or WWF. You could only see that in ECW. Up next, Rob Van Dam with Bill Alfonso defeats Al Snow. Al Snow was still under contract to the WWF at the time, but WWF had nothing for him, and they were not using him, so they gave him to Paul Heyman, basically, and said, get Al Snow over. And he did. Al Snow got head. And when he got head, he came out with the head. I'm talking about the mannequin head. I'm not talking about head like a blowjob. I'm talking about the mannequin head. Al Snow got head and discovered head in the ECW, and that got over like a motherfucker. You had ECW buy a ton of mannequin heads and give them out to the crowd for free, and the crowd was moving them, whatever you want to call it. They're basically copying Al Snow when he would come out with his entrance in the beginning of '98, and it was fucking awesome to see, and it was epic. So Al Snow got really over in ECW, and then WWF and Vince decided to take him back, and he would come back in June '98 and get over in the WWF with the head gimmick. But RVD defeats Al Snow. Up next, Tag Team Champions Bubba Ray and Devon Dudley with Sign Guy Dudley, Joe Gertner, and Big Dick Dudley. And the Dudleys were also with Jenna Jameson, famous porn star at the time. She was hot as hell at the time. And anyways, Jenna Jameson in ECW fit really well. But she did not appear much. She only appeared at 2 pay-per-view events for ECW. So the Dudleys defeat the challengers of PG-13. They were the team of Wolfie D and JC Ice. One of them, I think Jamie Dundee, I think he was JC Ice, or I think he was Wolfie D. Jamie Dundee, part of PG-13. His father was Bill Dundee, famous in the 80s in Memphis. Anyways, PG-13 never got over in ECW. They never lasted long, and they were gone after Hardcore Heaven. Dudley Boys defeat them and retain, and they should have, because the Dudley Boys were a great tag team and great tag team champions. 7-time ECW tag team champions were the Dudleys before they went to the WWF. Up next, Tommy Dreamer with Beulah McGillicuddy, his future wife and mother of his children. Mother of his 2 twin daughters. Tommy Dreamer defeats Jerry the King Lawler from the WWF. This was an interpromotional matchup. And Rick Rude, who was in ECW at the time as a commentator, left the commentary table, and Joey Styles was upset about that. I think Rick Rude turned on ECW before Hardcore Heaven at an ECW arena show. Anyways, Rick Rude comes in the ring, tries to turn on Tommy Dreamer to attack him to help Jerry Lawler, because Rick Rude would return to the WWF in September '97 and then leave in November '97 and go to Nitro and show up on Nitro at the same time as he was on Monday Night Raw the same night, because Raw was taped. So Rick Rude went to WCW, and they put him on Nitro live because they obviously knew he was on a taped WWF show. So Rick Rude's return to the WWF would not last long at all in '97. It lasted like 2 months. And not only Rick Rude interfered, but Sonny interfered and sprayed, I believe, hairspray in the eyes of Tommy Dreamer to try to get him to lose to Jerry Lawler, because Sonny was from the WWF. And Jake the Snake even came out after, I think, the lights went out for the 3rd time in the match. And then, surprise, Jake the Snake Roberts appears at Hardcore Heaven '97. I believe he DDT'd Tommy Dreamer. I think he DDT'd Dreamer, because Jake the Snake was a WWF guy. Maybe Jake the Snake DDT'd Jerry Lawler. I don't remember. But that really wouldn't make any sense. Up next, after Tommy Dreamer versus Jerry Lawler, and it was a war, it was a brawl, it was a street fight. Jerry Lawler got busted open. I believe Tommy Dreamer got busted open, like he did a lot of times in ECW. Main event was Shane Douglas against Terry Funk and against the new ECW heavyweight champion Sabu in a 3-way match. 3-way dance. Shane Douglas defeats Terry Funk and Sabu to win the ECW world title, and he would hold it for a very long time until January of 99. This was August 97. Shane Douglas would hold the title well over a year into 99 before he jobbed to Taz to give Taz and put Taz over as the ECW World Champion. So that was Hardcore Heaven 97. Also, not only did Jenna Jameson appear and PG-13 appear, but the ICP, Insane Clown Posse, also appeared at Hardcore Heaven. That was Hardcore Heaven 97. Now, I'm going to just talk about, I already said Lex Luger won the world title on Nitro. That was pretty exciting. I was not a big Lex Luger fan growing up, but it was exciting to see a world title change on a Monday night show. And Nitro did that earlier in 96, and Raw never did it at all until 98, when they did a world title change in 98. But Nitro did it, I think, only once in 97. We had a new world champion crowned on Nitro. And it was Lex Luger defeating Hollywood Hogan with the torture rack. And the crowd loved it. They exploded. I don't think they exploded because they were big Lex Luger fans. I think they exploded because they enjoyed WCW getting a victory over the NWO. I talked about Jim Cornette, Jerry Lawler invading ECW Arena at WrestlePalooza. Talked about the Raven, Tommy Dreamer, their final match taking place at WrestlePalooza, where Tommy Dreamer finally gets a victory over Raven. Now I'm going to talk about Paul Bearer and some of the work that he did before SummerSlam 97, or right before the July 97 In Your House pay-per-view. The work Paul Bearer did on the microphone on Raw was epic and very, very good. Paul Bearer on the microphone said, basically, he told the story of The Undertaker's brother and this fire that happened at the funeral home where he worked. And that the funeral home, everybody should know the story. It was set on fire, burned to the ground, and then Paul Bearer starts yelling on the microphone that Undertaker set that fire and killed his parents and his brother Kane. So, and then Paul Bearer starts yelling on the microphone, "Undertaker, you're a murderer!" And then he goes, "You're a murderer!" I just thought that was great, entertaining, funny stuff. Great work from Paul Bearer on the microphone in 97. And then later on in the show, on that Raw, before the July 97 pay-per-view, Paul Bearer would get on the microphone again after The Undertaker ran down to the ring during the main event and attacked, I think he attacked Vader or Farouk or someone. Anyways, Undertaker grabs Paul Bearer and he's calling him a liar, saying you're a liar, you're not telling the truth. And Undertaker is claiming Paul Bearer was a liar, saying that he killed his parents and that he was a murderer, because it wasn't true. So he starts slapping Paul Bearer really hard in the face. And then Paul Bearer gets on the microphone and says, "Kane's alive." Starts telling Undertaker, "Kane is alive." And then he says, "I know he's alive." And then he basically says, telling Undertaker Kane is alive. And the Undertaker looks in shock. He doesn't know what to think. And then the Raw ends. So just, I wanted to mention the great work that Paul Bearer did in 97 on the microphone. Great stuff, and he was a great talker. I'm not saying he was great at promos, but Paul Bearer was a great talker as a manager. He really got Kane over before Kane debuted in October 97. This ends my year in wrestling 1997 video. This ends part 4. And I'll do a part 5, I don't know when. maybe in 2 days, and I'll put it up then. Or maybe I'll put it up on Friday. Today is Tuesday. Anyways, if you're going to watch Total Divas or Tough Enough, enjoy it. Bye for now.